Christian universities are just expensive dating apps. In our latest episode of Drop Stones, we're talking about a video that Candy and I came across. It was from Liberty University, a student going around asking other students if they would rather harm a puppy or not get married until they're 30. And a lot of the students said they'd rather harm a puppy. And we started discussing this in this culture that's in Christendom, of this need to rush to marriage. And I think there's a couple different angles to look at this at and see why these kids so easily chose to harm a puppy instead of waiting until, God forbid, the age of 30 to get married. And I think a lot of it has to do with the culture that they're raised in, that purity culture mindset, where you're prohibiting any interaction of the physical need between partners in any sort of sense, way, or shape, or form. Even so that we've seen couples that we've known that never even kissed before they were on the altar getting married. And just this preventative measure of something that's preventing a biological desire and need that is in all people for the most part, to just kind of stifle this and hold it back and say, no, this isn't good. This war of the will to resist this temptation at all times leads to this just urge of, I need it, so what is my answer? Marriage. So when I'm 19, 20 years old, a freshman, sophomore, I'm slapping a ring on it, and by golly, we're getting married, so we can finally knock the boots a little bit, and I can take care of this urge that I've had since I was 12, 14 years old. So there's this just automatic instilled rush to get married young. And you look at it from a different angle of just this control and manipulation from the church and how it's perpetuated throughout this, because these people are young. They don't know themselves. I can think back to when I was 20, 21 years old. I didn't know myself, let alone knowing my partner that I got married to when I was 22. It took us years into our marriage before we started realizing we had to know ourselves, and then we could get to know each other better. So these kids don't know who they are. They haven't experienced life. They haven't experienced the world. They've just moved out for the first time. They've gone out of the protective umbrella of their parents and are experiencing the world firsthand for the first time, and are trying to define who they are and what makes them tick. And they don't. And when the church can manipulate you into a way of thinking, okay, then I got to get married soon because I got to take care of these urges and everything else that I have, it prevents you from ever getting to know yourself. And it puts you in a constant state of just reliance on being told who you are, because now you're busy and preoccupied with a spouse, more than likely children pretty quick, because that's the church's goals. Get them when they're young, they're easy and moldable. Get them in a church, because when you're married, you definitely have to start going to church and, blessing that union that you have, so we have control over you there. You're moldable, so we can decide who you are, and you got to start populating up the church again, because we can't convert people as quickly as we need to replace the ones that are going to be exiting this earth soon. So you got to start popping out some babies so we have more Christians coming up in the end, so we can start controlling things, because when we have numbers, we have power. And it's just this awful system that's been set up to prevent people from getting to know who they are, to being who they need to be, and to control them and manipulate them by forcing them to stay in, because they've got all the answers inside the church walls for these people, because there's plenty of questions that come about, and they get ill-fitted advice because we don't want people thinking on their own and learning about who they are and the freedoms that they can have by being themselves and unique and individual and experiencing life to the best without us in it at all. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to strap them with children, and now they're completely distracted and preoccupied, so we got absolute control over them until they're 40 and 50 and the kids start moving out. But then hopefully grandkids are in there, and then they can be the ones manipulating that generation coming out. It's a slippery slope and evil plan that's put on here, and it is just simply a dating app. You put a bunch of hormonal late teenagers, early 20-year-olds together, things are going to happen. Nature's going to take its course. And if you prevent nature from happening because you say it's a damnable sin, then they got to get married. And not to mention just the other aspect of why are women even going to Christian colleges from the Christian mindset. They're not offering educations on homemaking, and that's the only goal and career women should have, according to most of these fundamentalists. So yeah, Christian colleges are just giant dating apps, just so these people can meet up, get the urges stirred inside of them, and the only logical response is, let's get married and commit ourselves for life together. It's a tragic, tragic story that you see too often, and people are willing to do nefarious things because of the urges that they have within themselves, just so that they can get married and not have to worry about holding off anymore, because God forbid you end up being 25 and unmarried.